Hi, my name's Morgan Richard. I'm a supply chain management major and I'll be graduating in December, so I'm almost done. So this is my last elective credit, and I've really enjoyed the class so far. So this is going to be my presentation for the final paper. I apologize for the really bad recording, but I'm not good at this. Typically, I'd have my roommate, who's like a photojournalist major, help me out, but she's not here right now, so you've got me and my iPhone, and that's it. So let's go ahead and get started. Specifically, I will be talking about Native American music and modern film, and I'll be looking at two Disney movies, Pocahontas and Peter Pan. And in actuality, I'll be looking at a lack of Native American music in these films. So when you see these lyrics, most people will immediately identify these as from Pocahontas. It's a very well-known song, well-known movie. And you kind of picture her standing there singing her heart out, wearing her Native American garb, just kind of walking through nature. But when you actually look at the music itself, you hear strings, you hear trumpets, you hear flutes, you hear a Western based scale. And so when you think about it, these are not Native American tones at all. And so why in a movie about Native Americans is there music that is definitely Western in nature? I believe it is because we are unfamiliar with the type of music that was not included in this music. So indigenous music, we are not familiar with it. And this is because of a lack of education. I believe it's not a commonly taught subject, even in music class, when you talk about African American music and music from the Asian countries. I believe that if Native American music is taught, it is not taught frequently. There are missed opportunities for education. Mary Bells, who studies multicultural education in general, was quoted saying, "Multicultural education allows students experiences with the real meaning of diverse cultures in the United States and creates opportunities to develop tolerance of diversity." And so what this means is when Native American music is not included in education, students are really missing out on an opportunity to A, learn about the culture, but also become tolerant of that culture and accepting of that culture. Further, I believe that there is a missed opportunity for learning about the culture, which we saw in the last slide. A study did by Kay Edwards on fourth graders concluded that the acquisition of Indian culture based on content was very high, based on students had been exposed to Native American music teaching for the first time. So these students had never been taught about the culture at all, and when they were asked afterward what they brought out of it, most said that they learned so much just based on the music, and also they felt more culturally aware. And this is really important because Native peoples were the first people on this land, and so I think that we need to know exactly who these people were because we are still here living with them, and it's important to know how we got here. So, moving into my own experience, I grew up in Owasso, Oklahoma, which is a suburb of Tulsa. The name Owasso means end of the trail in Cherokee, and as you can see from our seal for the city of Owasso, we have an arrowhead and an Indian on a horse, and so very much I have grown up around Native American influence. But despite this, even my town being the name in a native language, I was hardly taught anything about Native American culture. In my music classes in elementary school, I don't remember anything, and that's not saying it wasn't taught at all, but it was not taught enough that it left a significant impact on me. I do remember talking about Native American tribes briefly in my high school Oklahoma history class, but as far as music, there was none. And so it's just crazy to think that even in a place that is in the middle of Native American territory, that it was hardly taught. And so I believe this is why the inclusion of Native American music in modern film is so rare. But moving on to our specific movies, I'm going to show a brief clip from Pocahontas and Colors of the Wind, which is the song that we began my slide with. Let me get to the right time here. So even from that brief clip, you can hear a piccolo, you hear the violins, the strings, the bass trombones and tubas in there. And so these are all very Western instruments and music styles. And so, again, Native music not included in this film. Let's see here. So, Pocahontas. The goal of Pocahontas, the makers wanted to break the mold of the stereotypical Disney princess, which they accomplished. And Roy Disney, who is the vice chairman and animation head at Disney, said that they wanted to do a story about people getting along. And I do believe that they did this. People leave the movie thinking, okay, yes, Pocahontas and John got along. They overcame the differences they had. But when thinking about it, Pocahontas and John did not seem drastically different. Yes, they had different beliefs and they dressed differently, but overall they didn't seem too dissimilar. And so I think if Disney really wanted to accomplish a story about people getting along and people overcoming differences and living together, they should have used true Native music. Can you imagine what the scene would have seemed like with Colors of the Wind if it had traditional drums, traditional singing, traditional dancing? It would have appeared so drastically different than our culture now that the thought of her and John getting along was much more beautiful and much more harmonious. Moving on to Peter Pan, I apologize, this video does have some very obvious racial discretions, but it is important to see this.
Big Peter Pan, big chief. You now, little flying eagle.
To be most enlightened.
What the Indian didn't know of big that he know now, but the Indian he sure learn a lot, and it's all from asking how. We translate for you. On the beach, what on the beach, and God the beach,
So in this, you hear a traditional drumming sequence at the beginning, but after that, the accuracy really deteriorates. You have trumpets, you have, again, Western melodies and vocals, and so it is not Native music, and again, in a Native scene. So, like I said, we've got Western instruments, Western vocals. The real impact of this movie was that during the time, racial stereotypes were not as frowned upon. They were more accepted. I mean, obviously they were included in a mainstream movie, and there was hardly any backlash at the time. And so as this movie was produced, including music that was even more racially charged and more stereotypical, kind of furthered that idea within people's minds. But can you imagine what it would have happened if they had included accurate Native American music and really showed the beauty of the culture rather than just stereotypes? I believe it would have had the possibility to change the racial views people had and to really stop racial appropriation from happening and kind of change a course and maybe set an example for other people producing films at the time. In conclusion, the Cambridge History of American Music, this book I found was written by a bunch of different authors and it was very cool, but a quote that I thought was super important said, "American Indians are the heirs to an enduring musical heritage that is impressive in its modern richness and variety as in its historical depth and continuity." So when films do not include true Native music in their films about Native people, there is a lack of depth and continuity because the true meaning of what the stories are trying to tell can't be portrayed correctly if the background is not there. When you think about music in a movie, it is there to kind of go along with an emotional scene or try to convey the emotions deep down. And so if the type of music does not match the type of story, that impact is lost. And so in these films, if true music was included, the true emotion would be able to be felt by the watcher. And so I believe that the way to change this is through, first, education. We need to teach Native American music in our schools and educate people on what this type of music is. And I believe once they hear it and become familiar with it, they will be able to listen to it and not feel the strange kind of differences within these things. And so that is the conclusion of my presentation, and I thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day.